The 2020 South African Police crime stats recorded 21,325 murders across the country. That's the unlawful premeditated killing of more than 21,000 people. Of those, 63 people were murdered in farm attacks. It may seem like an insignificant number, but these attacks are often brutal and vicious, and the impact is far-reaching. 15 of those farm murders were in KwaZulu-Natal, the highest number for any province in 2020. These figures all exclude farm attacks. Bobby Hall is from KwaNalu, an agricultural union representing commercial and emerging farmers and rural land users in KwaZulu-Natal.
Any farm attack within the province or within South Africa is close to heart. In the last 12 to 18 months, we have seen a spike in farm attacks, not necessarily resulting in murder and tragedy.
This is such a beautiful and idyllic setting. It's difficult to imagine the heinous crimes that take place in KwaZulu-Natal. The owner of a restaurant was hacked to death. He took 30 blows to the face with a panga. Eddie Neemeister was killed in June 2020. What his neighbor and friend Lillian Nadrowski witnessed at the crime scene will haunt her forever.
It was very clear that Eddie had put up one hell of a fight for his life. The brutality with the amount of blood and the extent of the crime scene.
Eddie's fiancée heard the struggle from their bedroom and looked out the window.
She saw the panga come down on him and realized there was an attack happening.
When Eddie's fiancée tried to escape, the attacker turned his attention to her, leaving Eddie to bleed out.
Eddie managed to get himself up and make his way into the house. Okay. One can only presume to try and protect her. We could very clearly see the blood trail follow his footprints along this pathway.
The attacker had gotten to Eddie's fiancée, strangling her with his hands as Eddie eventually caught up.
It was at that point that he turned his attention back to Eddie, which gave her the opportunity to run out the back.
Eddie Neemeister fought till he couldn't anymore and died on the scene. From April 2020 to April 2021, there's been between 30 and 40 farm attacks in KwaZulu-Natal with 14 murders. Trevor Murphy, Neil McKay, Graham Gibson, Dani and Glynis de Brain, Colin Schregman, Neville Turon, Bozana Kumalo, Wendy Wilson, Makatleo Sefoloko, Vida and Glenn Rafferty, Hilton Dowdle, a pregnant Zakia Ismail, Koos Botha were all killed. Every farm that stops operating after a farm attack or a murder costs the South African economy. Farm workers, suppliers and service providers lose a valuable income stream when the victims of these attacks call it a day and stop farming.
A downscale in agricultural productivity here in South Africa. That has an immediate knock-on in terms of our food security for our country, but most of all, it has a socioeconomic impact.
KZN Premier Sihle Zikalala says this type of crime cannot be tolerated.
No one has a right to take someone else's life. It is important that we deal with this because you get farmers being killed. Farming community then live in fear.
The National Rural Safety Strategy has been on the cards for years. It's meant to be the solution to these brutal attacks in remote areas. Dr. Johan Berger is from the Institute for Security Studies.
Broadly speaking, I think the National Rural Strategy isn't really coming off the ground in the way that we were promised it would.
Having reviewed the strategy, Dr. Berger notes although it's a good, practical strategy, it still falls short.
The National Commission has committed himself to working with organized agriculture in terms of setting up integrated operational centers nationally and provincially, locally. That will be manned by the police as well as by private security officials and organized agriculture. My information is none of these are in place yet.
But farming communities in KwaZulu-Natal are done waiting for a national plan to keep them safe. Brian Jones from Together SA CAN, a community crime prevention organization, has been analyzing KwaZulu-Natal cases over the past decade.
The only way in which you can create an overall plan is if you respond to the latest modus operandi, the latest trend with the latest technology.
And that's what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal. The farmers have joined forces with the local security industry, regional police and provincial government, and they are making inroads.
We've started an initiative known as the Midlands Security Task Team to ensure that all parties to crime prevention and ongoing investigations sit around the table, and we are all made aware of the issues at hand, because what happens 100 kilometers away may soon be on our own doorstep.
In many cases, there are safes on the farm property with cash, valuables and often firearms. The attackers will stop at nothing to get access to the loot.
One of the biggest contributing factors here is that farmers are isolated and response times to get to the scene take long. And here, minutes could be the difference between a farm attack and a farm murder.
Urban areas are densely populated. Criminals run the risk of neighbors, security, or the police being alerted. Farming communities do not have this advantage.
So the criminals believe that they have all the time in the world to carry out the attacks. They often torture their victims. Usually this is to extract information.
With limited police resources, it's up to community-driven initiatives to fill those gaps. Radio network communication is an essential part of the KwaZulu-Natal safety and security strategy, connecting farmers in distress with help. First on the scene are often neighboring farmers who jump into action without hesitation, knowing that disrupting the attack is crucial for survival. The average response time is under 10 minutes.
The truth of it is that if you just shone a torch, the suspects would run.
Not all vehicles will descend on the scene. Several of the other vehicles, including farmers, will actually go and park at strategic points, because unfortunately 9 out of 10 times the suspects have already left the scene.
Ryan Carpenter is from a local security company dealing with these incidents.
With all those eyes and ears on the ground and the information that's getting passed through very quickly, we've had some good successes.
Using a community-funded network of vehicle license recognition cameras that cover 97% of the roads in the KwaZulu-Natal region, criminals are tracked and traced. Jones has helped develop the specialized victim support platform that collates all the evidence-based data from KwaZulu-Natal farm attacks and murders.
There's also some very smart algorithms that power that network, so it's not just about the camera. It's about the analytics. We measure every single pulse point that happens. It's either a verified piece of information or unverified.
Just in April, 2 groups of criminals that perpetrated farm attacks were arrested within hours of the one attack, and a few days later in the second incident where Trevor Murphy was killed. The average arrest happens within 14 days to a month in KwaZulu-Natal. While they may not be able to completely prevent these attacks, they are working around the clock to ensure that justice is served, explains Hall.
We are now able to fully understand from the minute the crime occurred right through to prosecution, and understand terms of sentence, and eventually get to when the prisoners are offered parole. It's become not only a reporting matter now, the structures are following it all the way through to the end.
In every one of the KwaZulu-Natal cases analyzed by Jones, at least one of the attackers has a criminal record and at least one lived within 4 kilometers of the crime scene.
We've had relationship-driven murders, so it means that the victims and the perpetrators know one another prior to the event of the murder.
80-year-old livestock farmer Mbozana Khumalo from the Nkomba area in KwaZulu-Natal was attacked on his land in November 2020 by 2 young men that he knew. Speaking to his son, Philemon, we learned that the assault had stemmed from an argument about dogs. Khumalo's hands were tied behind his back. He was beaten, then shot in the arm and left for dead. He died a few days later in hospital, succumbing to his wounds. The family is still struggling to come to terms with Khumalo's murder. The KwaZulu-Natal provincial government are being proactive, taking an arbitration role by implementing a program called Community in Dialogue to address relationship challenges in the farming sector.
Incidents of killing of farmers, serious exploitation of workers undermine the progress. It started as a blame game, but in some cases now you will see that there is a realization that they need each other.
But the relentless onslaught of violent crime seems endless for those affected unless justice is served.
And I think farmers play such a big role in South Africa for every single South African. And they're not being looked after. Unless there's real consequence to murdering someone, I can't see how it's going to stop.